So here's one of the biggest challenges in Southeast Asia right now. How in the world do you unite 10 incredibly different nations into one single powerhouse digital economy? I mean, it's a puzzle that seems almost impossible, but the solution that's on the table is inspired by something ancient, elegant, and literally woven into the culture of the region. So let's get into it. And that really is the heart of the problem, right? We're talking about connecting the 10 countries of ASEAN. You've got economies as different as hyper-modern Singapore and, developing nations like Laos. If you try a single top-down approach, you're just going to alienate people and ignore what makes each country unique. So how do you build that bridge without forcing everyone to stand on the exact same spot? Well, the core of the problem is what you could call a digital patchwork. The ASEAN region isn't some single uniform canvas. Nope. It's more like a quilt made of very, very different pieces, especially when you look at their digital rules and regulations. And this really shows you just how big that gap is. On one hand, you've got a place like Singapore. Their data privacy rules are so advanced, they actually line up with Europe's super strict GDPR. But then, on the other hand, you have countries like Cambodia and Laos, which are really just starting to build their digital laws from the ground up. The divide there is massive.
Yeah, so because of that huge gap, any kind of one-size-fits-all plan is it's never going to work. Politically, it's a non-starter. You have to think of each nation's digital policies as their own sovereign threads. They're unique, they're non-negotiable, so just telling everyone what to do from the top, it's simply not an option.
So, if one single pattern is off the table, what's the answer? Well, this is where things get really cool. A brilliant and culturally rich idea has come forward: the Ikat weaving model. And its inspiration doesn't come from tech, but from a traditional art form. For anyone who doesn't know, Ikat is this incredible weaving technique. And here's the key: the magic happens before the weaving even starts. Each individual thread is dyed in pattern first. Then, all these unique individual threads get woven together to create a larger unified design. The final fabric is beautiful because each thread is distinct. You can probably see where this is going.
And this right here, this is the motto, the whole philosophy behind the ICAT model. The goal isn't uniformity. It's not about making every country's digital laws identical. It's all about interoperability, making their very different systems work together seamlessly.
Okay, so that all sounds great as a big idea, but how does it actually work? I mean, how do you weave this digital fabric for real? Let's get into the mechanics of how this thing gets built. It really comes down to two key parts. First, you need a way to connect all those individual threads, the national data rules. We'll call that the binding agent. And second, you need a common framework to weave them all on, and that's the digital loom or the shared infrastructure. So, how do you bind these completely different threads together? You use something called Model Contractual Clauses, or MCCs. The best way to think of them is like a standardized legal handshake. They let a company in, say, Singapore, work securely with a partner in a country that has totally different data laws. The contract itself provides all the safeguards. This is a total game changer because it means businesses can connect right now and bypass the years and years it would take to negotiate complicated international treaties.
All right, now for the loom itself, digital public infrastructure. Instead of trying to build one giant single payment system for everyone, which would be a nightmare, ASEAN is just connecting the national systems that already exist. The best example of this is the Regional Payment Connectivity Initiative. It links Thailand's PromptPay, Singapore's PayNow, and others. What does this mean for you? It means you can send money instantly across borders using your own local currency and for a super low cost. I mean, think about that. It's totally revolutionary.
Okay, so we've got the threads, we've got the binding agent, and we've got the loom. So when you actually put it all together, what does the final fabric look like? And, maybe more importantly, what kind of impact does it have on the people and the economies of ASEAN? Well, the benefits here are huge, and they come in two main flavors. First, there's the harmonization benefit, which helps real people. It absolutely slashes transaction costs for small businesses trying to sell products next door and for migrant workers who are just trying to send money home to their families. Then there's the sovereignty benefit. By making it easy to trade in local currencies, nations become less reliant on the US dollar. That gives their own central banks way more control over their economies. And the prize for getting this right? It is absolutely staggering. We are talking about an integrated digital economy that could be valued at an estimated $2 trillion by 2030. That is not just a number on a page, it's a fundamental transformation for one of the most dynamic regions on the entire planet. And that really brings us full circle, back to that beautiful Ikat metaphor. The final fabric of the ASEAN digital economy isn't meant to be a single, plain, boring color. No, its strength and its beauty are going to come from the mix, the interplay of all those unique individual threads being woven together to create something that is whole and incredibly strong. Look, the plan is definitely ambitious, and you have to admit the model is incredibly smart. ASEAN is right now actively weaving its digital future, respecting all that diversity while pushing for unity. The big question that's left is whether the execution can live up to the elegance of the concept. Will the final pattern really be as beautiful as the design? It's for sure something we'll be watching very closely.